Okay. Oh, Bill, you've come in. Good to see
Hi.
you. Okay, good morning. Good morning, all. Nice to see your cheery faces. We're getting towards the end of the Zooms, and that's good. Apologies. I have an apology from Hazel, one for lateness from Elwyn, and a departure by Jim and Marcus at 10 a.m. Is that correct for everybody?
No, I'm here for the duration now. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Well,
thanks, Marcus.
Sorry, I'm here. You know.
No, that's good. All right, moving to seconder, please.
Happy to move.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Claire. Oh, morning, Claire. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
It's carried. Thank you. Hi, Andy. Disclosure of members' interest. Are there any disclosures today?
Kia ora. Do I disclose for the item for the runanga in terms of running off yet for this afternoon?
I don't think that's a biggie. No, I don't. Oh, no, you mean the temporary road closure? Or
Yes, yep.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't think that's a declaration.
Just putting it out there.
Yeah, no, well done. Yeah, no, fantastic. No, I think that's fine. Yeah.
Kia ora.
Well, does anybody else have a Jim? Does Bill have to declare that? It's only a road closure, but.
Yeah, look, there's no pecuniary interest in that at all.
No.
Graham, so
and it was nothing was opposed on it, I don't believe. So hopefully I'm right there. No, it should be fine. Are there any late items that need to be brought up today? Thank you. The confirmation of the order is as it sits. I believe there is a resident. Oh no, that's all right. I'll leave that for Bruce. That's all right. Confirmation. Moving a seconder, please, for the confirmation of the order as it is. Thank you, Lou. Seconder, please. Who can I see? Thank you, Mike. All those in favour say aye. Against carried. Aye. The confirmation of the open minutes on the 7th of December, just on page 7 there. If we could just go through those for accuracy and correctness. Page 8. Page 9, page 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Thank you. Confirmation, please. Can I have a move and a second of that be a true and correct record, please? Claire, thank you. Thank you, Bruce. All those in favour, hands up or aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Tab 6 is the draft transport strategy. Dawn, are you coming in there, or is it a hand over to Brian?
Thank you. Through the chair, we have Rachel here to present the transport strategy. I understand Mr. Hudson's in attendance as well to support.
Could I just interrupt? I'm very sorry, Graham, but I moved that there were the minutes, but I see I wasn't present. So that's not going to be valid, sorry.
It's not very handy. Roger, you're going to come in there and thank you so much.
What a good start.
I didn't even see that either, Claire, so yeah. Well done. Thank you. All right there, Jenny.
Yes, that's fine. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you.
Thanks, Claire.
Okay, welcome, Rachel and
okay,
Brian.
Thank you.
On patrol. Lovely to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. And thank you for having us here today, Mayor Jim and councillors as well. You will recall we recently had a council workshop on the draft transport strategy. We're now coming to you today to formally seek your approval for community and stakeholder engagement for the draft transport strategy. We've developed a communications plan, and you'll see a summary of that in your appendix of the report, and are planning the engagement process to commence in February for the entire month. And proposing a range of techniques, including printed and via our website, to enable people to participate in the engagement process. I'll take the report as read and ask if there are any questions.
I can't believe there's not a couple of hundred. Come on. No,
I've got my hand up. I've got my hand up, Graham.
Easy, Graham.
Thank you. Roger, you want to go? I think you might be on mute, Rog.
I'm not now. Just took me a while to find the little thing. Yeah, thanks, Rachel. I distributed a document yesterday that actually the transport strategy is based on two external feeds of data, one from NIDIA and the other on the WRTM, which really put in question the integrity of the whole transport strategy. I'm not going to go through all of those points here, but it really does say to me that I'm not too sure we can put the document out there for consultation. The public won't have access to those two external documents. And I think that this is such an important document that to go out there without having addressed those issues would really be inappropriate and would actually be putting us as council at risk of distinct criticism, because we do risk having a transport strategy that is unsound. So I would suggest that it's inappropriate to go out for regional consultation until those issues are addressed.
But aren't we, by going out to consultation, asking for those issues that people want to be addressed? Now,
not really, because the public will not have access to that data. When we send out the consultation document, it doesn't have the population projections, it doesn't have the WRTM, which actually are the foundation for the transport strategy. And if people are just not going to know that there is any question of the integrity of those two documents when they read the transportation strategy as presented.
Rachel or Dawn, can you, sorry Phil, hang on, just get this out of the way. Rachel or Dawn, do you want to just make some comments, please? I believe there's a fair bit of work to be done.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, perhaps I could talk on that point.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, so I certainly have looked through the work prepared by Councillor Gordon and acknowledged there that he makes some valid points, that we know that the growth scenarios or the the growth plans are the best that we have at the time, and we have talked about that in previous meetings. It's also I guess a developing area that gets further explored in the community plan and the future-proof review which is going on. So I certainly acknowledge there are potentials for disagreement about those figures. Then in the WRTM, also we have acknowledged already that yes, some of those modelling errors or anomalies that Councillor Gordon has pointed out are there, and staff have seen those. We identified a number of those ourselves during the process, and we worked with the modellers to remove the gross errors that we could do, but we acknowledge that this is a strategic model, and it's not designed to provide accurate traffic counts on each individual road link, but it does point us to the big picture. And I think we do need to remember that this strategy is about the big picture. It does point us to the fact that if unbridled growth in car use occurs, then increasing congestion will happen in our towns and across the wider road network, including the state highway network. So we understand that to be the case. And so in that respect, I fully acknowledge the work that Councillor Gordon has done as showing up those weaknesses, but the model is the best strategic model we have at this time, and it does point us to the strategic solutions which the transport strategy lays out there. So around planning for growth, managing demand, climate change, emission reductions, walking and cycling and passenger transport, all of those elements remain relevant and things that we do want to talk to the community about, regardless of those underlying predictions. So then it just really becomes a matter of timing for how quickly the district grows and how quickly traffic grows, and the issues arising as the modelling does show.
And Brian, it's a moving feast all the time, because you've got Waka Kotahi reviewing the Southern Links. So there's something else, and that's right in Waipa, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Rachel, did you want to add anything there, or Phil's got a quick?
Yeah, no, totally agree with Brian's response.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Phil, your turn, and then Bruce.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So one comment and one question, if I may. Just as as elected members, but speaking individually as well, we've got to have real confidence that the numbers, the population growths and everything like that really are as accurate as we can. This is a long-term plan, this transport strategy. So, and I know in other meetings that we've attended, there's been comments, not from yourselves, but other comments that after 10 years, it's a bit of a guess on the population growth. So, as I said, this is a long-term plan, so we've got to be try and be as accurate as possible, but it's hard to crystal ball as well. But we know everything is growing so quickly and rapidly, so we just have to get that right. But and the question is, just with the consultation with the public, I think it's in March, no, February, did you say? February?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
What if in February is still in orange and the traffic light is still in orange, are we not able to meet the public face to face? And when I say arrange meetings, is like having in both towns, or even Key and Leamington as well, pop-up areas in our town, so we can talk to the public, or at our council buildings like we've done before on various other things, because we've got to cater for all age groups for them to be able to speak. And all due respect to the older generation, they like to talk face to face. That's just how they like to do things, majority of them anyway. So are we not able to not just do everything social media and newspapers and everything like that, but are we able to do some face-to-face consultation as well, please?
Would you not think that those decisions are probably out of our hands at the moment for the next couple of months, but relevant to what might happen, what we might do will come up at that time?
Yeah, I'm even saying now, if we're still orange, we're orange now, aren't we? So
yes,
even if we're orange in February, are we still able to do face-to-face consultation methods like I just suggested, or something similar to that?
Yeah, I guess we've tailored our comms plan to the current environment. So we would be, and if there is an opportunity to do some face-to-face, if things change, we've tried to tailor things as best we can within the environment and the way we're working right now. But if there is the opportunity there, but at the moment, our main focus will be on through web things, through information outlets that we already have existing, and digital advertising, feedback forms, newspaper, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I understand.
But we'll definitely bear that in mind if we are able to.
Yeah. Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, Phil.
Okay. Well, yeah.
What else? You right, mate? Yep. Okay. Thanks, Bruce.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Rachel, on page 31, I just want this criteria justified. We need to continue to address the district's high fatal. That's the word that gets me high. What justifies high fatal? crashes and related to crashes?
good.
I thought we were doing pretty good. Really?
Good question, Councillor Thomas. I mean, road safety is a continuing challenge, and I guess high compared to other peer groups, and high across the Waikato region and high nationally as well. So it's the wording that's used, and it is. We have a slightly higher, Brian will be able to add to this, I'm sure, but we do have a slightly higher fatality and serious injury problem on our main roads across the district and across the Waikato region as well.
Okay, yeah. I've also got an issue on page 39. I don't know who writes these things, but a national policy strategy is on the third box, vision where no one is killed or seriously injured in road crashes in New Zealand. Well, that's unrealistic. Why don't they put to mitigate the incidence of death? Not that no one's going to be killed, so that's so unrealistic.
Yeah, it is a far-reaching vision, and it has been questioned already. And thank you for questioning that. I mean, it is a vision, and it's a national vision, so we are working towards that vision. Yeah.
Okay, no, that's all right. Good. I thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, Bruce. There was great debate at the Land Transport Committee at EW on that. And that's what, at the end of the day, we thought we were aspiring to. We thought if there's anything less, then it probably was a bit irrelevant. But I completely understand what you're talking about. Bill, have you got a question?
I was on mute. Yep.
Liz?
Sorry, Graham. I took my hand down because I think it was pretty much covered in the fact that we were talking about option 2. But if I might just send a big shout out to Rachel and Brian for coming to Naiwi Tōpua at least on 2 occasions for this. So there has been really good iwi consultation over this strategy. So acknowledge that, and thanks, Brian. And
thank you, Bill.
Rachel.
Yeah, thank you. It's a really good opportunity to go there too. Thank you.
Liz?
Thanks, Graham. Hey, I was in EB consultative meeting last week, and Gayleen, very wise woman, talked to us, I guess, just about making sure that the documents that go out are translatable, that they're easy to read, and that they are really engaging. And looking at this document, I think we've actually really achieved that. It was just something that really, I guess, I'm not that I've been concerned about it, but if we want to engage on this really, really important piece of work, it has to be easy to read. And I've read it several times now, and I'm really happy with it. I guess the only thing now in this challenging environment, I want to make sure that we deliver it. And when we do engage, hopefully in person when we can, that again, it's in a really engaging way so that our youth, but also a real wide variety of people, feel that they can actually feed back into it at every level. And this is such an important piece of work. So thanks, team. I just think this is really great, and look forward to hopefully getting some really, really good feedback and good ideas as well. There's probably stuff that we haven't covered off that perhaps will come out of our community.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Roger, did you have another question?
Yeah, just a final comment, if I might.
Thank you.
With Brian and Dawn in another communication, having recognised that there is validity to the concerns that I've got, and as this is a public meeting, I'm assuming that I may now share my concerns with the community.
Roger, so we do have we have been working on a response to some of your concerns around the model data, and we have done some work. One of my staff members has done some work looking at the overall trip generation in the model and how that compares to in the Cambridge area, and how that compares to trips in and out over a cordon. If you threw a noose around the town and looked at the total number of trips generated and where they enter and exit the town, and how that compares to traffic counts and the model predictions. So we've done that piece of work, nearly have it ready to share with you. So you might examine that information before a decision.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Roger,
I've actually been waiting for that information for 2 weeks, Brian, and hence I'm really concerned. And I think the public has a right to know that there are major discrepancies within that model.
Roger, I was going to suggest that you don't put yours out until February so that it's fresh in people's minds. No. And the other thing is, I came on my computer yesterday at 3:30 and only just found it. I haven't had a dog show reading it. I don't know whether the staff got it quicker than I did, but yeah, that was what I got.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, if there's nothing, Brian, did you want to say something else? Sorry, I cut you off a bit.
No, just to answer Roger's concern. So we did obviously do some work, and we corresponded with the modeler who did from Stantec, who did the work for us, to confirm that we had approached it the right way, and we're going to be sharing valid data. So we've got those responses, and we'll be able to share that with Councillor Gordon very soon. Thank you. Claire, do you have the final question, please?
Oh, well, I was just going to say, it'd be great if the rest of the councillors could see the response that Brian's team are sharing with Roger, because
I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will.
That would be really great. Thanks.
But Roger's done such a top job on what he's got. It does take quite a bit of going through. It's well done, Roger. Yeah. Andrew, you want to say something? Thanks, Claire.
Yeah, thanks, Graham. Just briefly, I guess my question to Brian is, Councillor Gordon's concerns that our growth is understated and that our traffic journeys are, trips are understated. You made a comment earlier that I picked up on, that this strategy really is about this. It's more about timing than about an actual change to the strategy. If in fact our growth is greater than what Nydia and our other sources are projecting. So yeah, could you just comment on that, please?
Yes, sure. I guess growth and impacts and wider policy changes all have a significant bearing on how much traffic ends up on the road. And we see that, in the current environment, we've certainly got some busier roads, but the timing element comes into it. We know whenever we use traffic models for any purpose that there's always going to be elements of them which are wrong, whether some of the numbers predicted are wrong, or whether the timing of when the traffic changes or increases occur might be wrong. So it is a model that takes some very broad data, very coarse data about population and jobs and the road network, and it creates a matrix of trips across the roading network, the entire roading network for the whole Waikato region. So we know that, yes, some of those predictions will be wrong, and maybe the model will put more traffic onto one particular road than the road that it should be on. That's understandable. The model is it's just a computer simulation after all. It's never driven a road. It doesn't know which is a good road and a bad road to put traffic on. So it comes back to then, how does our strategy respond? We know that we're going through an unprecedented growth phase. And so, but we also know that technology is changing and government policy is changing around, say, emission reduction and a reduction in use of private motor vehicles in urban areas, because we see across the country and across the world that transport networks don't cope with unbridled growth in passenger vehicles. So our strategy has to look quite a long way ahead, but it also has to be, probably in this environment, reviewed every 5 years to make sure we're still on the right track. But the big picture items within the strategy is whether, do we plan for growth in a way which says that private motor vehicle travel is the most important form of travel. Therefore, we need much bigger roads and intersections throughout our district to cope with that increase so that we don't have congestion? Or do we follow the I guess the national strategies, which is to say that emission reduction and other modes of transport are going to be more important, and therefore our investment in the future should be in those other activities rather than building bigger roads. So those are the, I guess, the headline type questions that this strategy asks, and that we want to get feedback from the public about.
Thank you, Brian. Phil, have you got an additional question, or just something we've already raised? Phil?
Just a quick comment, if I may, please. Yeah, I just wanted to say, I mean, Claire's phenomenal at highlighting mistakes in the minutes, but Roger is a real figures man, and you know, we've got to congratulate Roger for all the work he does put into this. I mean, this is a really important document, this long-term plan document, and Roger does put a lot of time into it, and but it is an extremely important document, so we've got to get it right. So just well done, Roger, and well done, Claire, for picking up the minutes mistakes as well.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Okay, we've had a fair length of time on that. There's a recommendation there, A and B, that the report be received from Rachel. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Thank you, Phil. Seconder, please.
I'm happy to second, Brian. Graham.
Claire,
Yeah.
you're at the meeting today, so that's legal. Thank you. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried.
Aye.
Beauty. Tab 7 is the Western Arterial business case. A lot of good information here. We're going with you, Dawn, on that one, and Brian. Brian, yes. And yeah, Brian.
Yeah, I'll take that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
We'll take the report as read. There is a lot of information here. We have discussed it at a workshop, and of course the Te Miru councillors have been very involved in the delivery or the construction and delivery of this business case. And it is all around the Te Miru Western Arterial, designated in 2006. And it's with any designation for a major project, there's always the need to check back in after a period of time and see were the original justifications and evidence and costs and impacts and things, were they correct, and what's changed over time, and does the designation need to change in any way? So this was a great opportunity to do this for the Western Arterial, and so some very good information has come out of this study. So on page 89 there, the overview, the primary objective was to come up with a well-reasoned decision whether to retain or uplift or alter the designation. But in tandem with that, we really recognise that a Western Arterial is a long-term plan and a very large investment. And so there wasn't delivered in the short term or medium term really any improvements to the traffic transport network of the township. And so this was a really good opportunity to examine what short and medium term improvements could be made to meet the objectives. So the business case, covered those elements there of, feasibility, achievability, funding scenarios, likely costs, and it looked at the entire strategic roading network of Tiamutu and Kihikihi, so that we made sure we were looking at the big picture. There was a lot of engagement with stakeholders through workshops, including with Ngāiwi Tupua Waipa, Road Transport Association, so representing freight users, Fonterra, Kiwi Rail, Waka Kotahi. And we set out, what were the objectives for the study. So certainly we found as we went through it, there were elements of information that we did not have at this time and would influence later decisions. And one obviously the growth and how we plan for that in our community plan, but also when the Waikato Expressway, the Hamilton section opens, we know that there will be some changes in traffic flows on the surrounding state highway, potentially also through Prongia on State Highway 39 and through Te Awamutu and Kiki on State Highway 3. So there is a bit of a gap in our knowledge there until that part of the expressway opens and we see how that shakes out. And that might influence our decision making in the future as well.
Brian, before I take questions, and there's 3 lined up, can you tell me the distance between Riwi Street and Pokeru Road? Or Jim, you might know it. What is that distance? Do you know?
Would be about 1.5 kilometres, maybe.
Okay, it's that far. Yeah. Okay. Tough. Okay, have you finished, Brian, for a minute?
I was just going to then rattle through the preferred option, which is on page 91, and it talks about program 11. So this business case review really started to throw up a program of works and activities that would make really good improvements to the transport system in Te Awamutu and Kiki long term. And so it became obvious that good walking and cycling network and safety improvements in the town would address some of the current issues that people are facing, and also providing a suitable alternative to having to use Arawata Street and Alexandra Street. So we know that Mutu Street back in the late 80s or early 90s was connected up to a Haupa Road, a plan by the former Te Awamutu Borough Council, and that made a significant improvement to some movements of traffic around the town. So by strengthening that route, we can also see we can take pressure off the main street and Arawata Street if Mutu Street works better for moving traffic around the main street area. So therein lies then in the short term, looking at the northern section of the Western Arterial and probably uplifting the designation there, but keeping the southern section where growth is planned to happen. And then looking in the medium term and particularly coming up to reviewing the designation and when it's required in 2032, making sure we've got a good road network in that western corridor that will suit the growth of the town long term. So those are the emerging preferred options from this business case. But I can pause there, stop there now and head to questions.
Thank you, Brian. They're lining up. Claire, Lou and Marcus.
Great. Thanks a lot, Graham. So Brian, just checking whether or not I've passed on information to you about whether or not truckies would change from State Highway 39 to the expressway, because at a public meeting we had in Pirongi a couple of months ago, people said that because truckies are paid for, or actually the big cost factor is road user charges. So they always determine the length of the trip rather than the time it takes. And so while the expressway may reduce the time, the kilometres will still be shorter on State Highway 39. And so they didn't think that there'd be much change in the traffic levels there. I can't remember if I passed that on to you before, but
yes, I think we have had that discussion, and you're quite right. And there is a level of uncertainty. Certainly, Waka Kotahi are predicting that some movements will shift, particularly to State Highway 21, because traffic that currently goes through the city and is time conscious has that slow movement around the west side of the city to join the expressway, where it'll be much, much faster to take State Highway 21. And so that will attract some traffic, but it is very much a wait and see game for that heavy traffic.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. And then I've just got a couple of minor things that are in the wording of the documents. And so I'm looking at page 132, or I think it's page 35 of the report. There's there's a big table there with potential risks. And the first bullet point, it talks about the use of e-bikes with increased functional demands. And I presume it's increased functional demands, but I didn't know what the functional demands would be and why, yeah, what difference that makes to just e-bikes generally. It says that you make some proposed solutions outdated because we'll have some small electronic mobility options for the use of e-bikes with increased functional demands.
Yes, I'd have to go back and refresh my memory as to what was meant by that. I know certainly e-bikes will travel faster and further, and people have different demands for parking them. They want secure and often covered storage. So there are all of those sorts of elements which do change the sort of infrastructure that council might be providing.
Yeah, and I had read about those special storage facilities for e-bikes actually, and what a big difference it makes to people using e-bikes if they're actually available. Yeah. So it is definitely something that council's going to have to be looking at. And then on page 41 or page 138 of our agenda, at the bottom of the page, it talks about a closer look at the Western Corridor options, and there's a bullet point list. And it mentions Alexandra Road, but that should be Alexandra Street.
Yes, you're quite correct. It's in a couple of places there. We can do a search and replace on that. And
right, yeah, I think tell me the people are going to be pretty. Want to get it right. Yeah. Okay, and then just a minor one on page 52. The last heading is designation and property implications. And the second bullet point, it talks about the northern section of the designation can be uplifted. That's all.
Right. Okay.
But I just want to say, Brian, in finishing that, I did appreciate that extra information you gave me about, the Station Road treatment and the intersection with Alexandra Street and all that, because that certainly did alleviate some of my concerns. And I appreciate all the sort of work that's been done to try and find the optimal solution and keeping within, the funding envelope that we might have available. Yeah, so thanks.
Thanks, Claire. Lou?
Thank you, through your chair. I'd just like to quickly answer, perhaps for Claire. If you have an e-bike, you've got to have charging facilities. If you go around the Otago Rail Trail, anywhere else, and these are external, they cannot be held in the building. You actually have to have them away from the building. So you will need charging facilities put out. Okay, quite often these are quite separate. It'll be in a park or somewhere like that, and also parking facilities. That is bike racks. Okay, and just facilities for them. So you've got to cope with that. I'm very, very supportive of this report. I think it's a considered report. I do strongly believe that we do need to have more consultation and let staff do some more work on this. The Mutu Street option I am quite supportive of. I think that this is a very practical thing to do in town, and we can actually utilise something that was utilised originally as a through road. It had the sale yards and everything, and I can remember, and Graham, you probably remember as well, sorry for the chair, but going through that road with trucks with stock and everything else in the early days. So it was utilised as a through road and could be redeveloped as such. So my demand is simply that I do think we need some more time. We do need to have staff to work a little bit more with this. We want to take the companies like Frontiera and others along with us who have already been a part of these discussions and perhaps develop this a little bit more.
Yeah, Lou, just for your information, Jenny and I have had e-bikes for about 3 years, but they do about 80 kilometres on a full battery. So just may not be quite so much demand in town, I wouldn't think, but they do have a good range, providing you're not on turbo all the time. Okay, thank you, Marcus. And then
I'd just like to say it was a good process that we workshopped through, and like the right people were involved. And it's really good that it now encompasses Kiki as well, and like it did bring up that it's actually a wider conversation, not just the Western Arterial, because if we do the Western Arterial, we've still got the main street in Kiki as well, which is causing traffic issues. So I mean, it's not ideal. I mean, we wanted the gold-plated one, but there's no way we can afford that. But this is a really good compromise in what we've got, and I think it will serve the community well for the next few years.
Yeah, thanks, Marcus. Jim, your turn.
Yeah, just quickly, Graham. I support the report. Look, this is a long-term planning issue, and the same as the transport strategy. It's something that's just got to be kept refreshed the whole time, and as things change. But we've already gone through a huge expense in securing the majority, I would suggest, of the route. And sooner or later, Te Awamutu is going to grow that it needs some movement across the town rather than straight into the centre of it. So, look, long term, obviously, it's something that we've got to keep in mind. And the other issue that I continue to raise is that as long as the benefit cost ratio is done using, I suppose, suitable cost for the strength of the road that we need. I've always looked at that road, and it doesn't need to be any more than the strength of our normal rural roads, or even the urban street standard. And it's not a motorway that we're building around there. And if we continue to put those costs in at motorway standard, that I don't believe will ever happen, then it's never going to happen anyway, because the costs will just kill it. So I think we've just got to be sensible about the standard that we're going to impose on it. But other than that, support the report.
No, that's a good plan with plenty of detail. Brian, did you have anything to finish off, please?
No, other than to say, I fully support what the Mayor has just stated there. It's certainly any future Western Corridor would be like a collector urban street, not a motorway. Yeah.
No, great work, and a lot of stuff, and it really highlighted everything. So well done, team. So there's recommendation here, A, B, and B1 and 2. I'd like to have a move and a seconder, please, to pass that. Thank you, Lou. And a seconder, please. Thank you, Andrew. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried.
Aye.
Okay, the next link is tab 8, which is the Victoria Bridge, and another huge bit of information there. So, Brian, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is the last in a series of reports that we started back in, I think, late 2017 with Becca to examine the resilience and future maintenance needs of the historic Victoria Bridge. So because it is a structural analysis, it's full of lots of engineering jargon, and it's very, very hard to read. So I certainly acknowledge a lot of people would have to skim over it, and but the key findings are summarised there at the beginning of the document, and the highlights are that the bridge does have capacity to continue in its current role, provided that vehicle weight restriction is maintained. That the previous steelwork repairs around the central pin are very competent, and but during the next repair and repaint, we want to cut out and replace some of the corroded steel in that area, some of the original corroded steel. There will be, quite a bit of steelwork repair done at the time that the bridge is scaffolded, and Becca, we have engaged Becca to work now on that contract document and design of repairs and everything, so that we're in a good position middle of next year to award a contract, and the contractor can then gear up and repair and paint over the following summer. So a key point also there is that because there will have to be a lot of scaffolding on the bridge during the repair, that will take away some of the load carrying capacity for traffic. So therefore we will have to reduce the traffic on the bridge during that repair phase. Very similar to what we did in 98, 99 when we last repainted the bridge. So we would be working up a comprehensive traffic management plan and alternatives and options for the community, working with the community to come up with some good ideas for how we manage that process during the contract works. So I can leave it there and take any questions.
Thank you, Brian. It is a very comprehensive report. Really enjoyed reading it. Roger.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, Brian, it does get a little bit difficult to read, doesn't it, with all the figures and charts and everything else in.
Yes.
But there's a couple of comments, and I did read and understand not all of it, but quite a bit of it. So maybe I could just ask you to comment on a couple of things.
Sure.
One is on, I think it's page 6 of the report, but it might be 189 of our minutes. And that is, the bridge was built in 1907 and has varying levels of corrosion and general degradation. And the bridge is considered to be somewhere between good stroke fair and deteriorated condition. Now, that is a statement that is contrary to what we as the council have been making publicly when we state that the bridge is in good condition and likely to last for another 30 years. Do you want to comment on that to start?
Yes, sure. So I think we've always said good to fair, and obviously there's parts of it which are very new, like the footpaths and other things, and there's parts of it are very old and would be considered to be in fair condition. So this is that condition factor. That's all around the factors of safety, or the way that calculations are made to reduce the what's the best way to describe it? Factors that are used to downgrade the load carrying capacity of the bridge to make sure that no elements are overstressed. And so when the bridge was absolutely brand new, it would have a condition factor of 1. Everything is working exactly as it was originally designed. And then over time, because there is deterioration, and there's deterioration with every bridge, some elements of the bridge are downgraded in their ability to carry load, and hence why we have bridges with weight restrictions on them, to make sure we continue to operate the bridge within its load carrying capacity, but also with a good factor of safety that protects the public.
Yeah, can you accept the fact, though, that having a public report with that comment in is really going to fuel the community's concern about the bridge?
Yes, some people might reach that conclusion, but I guess when we look at it holistically, probably every bridge we have in the district, which is got some age on it now, will have elements of it which would be considered in that 0.8 deteriorated condition. So it's all around terminology, but it's not around any neglect of the structure. It's just natural aging. And I guess if we had to give ourselves a score, we would say that all of us show some signs of deterioration, and that's normal.
Okay.
So I guess it is just terminology. The report, demonstrates that overall it is safe, and that the maintenance strategy that we have for it will continue to keep it in, good to fair condition.
Then further on, and then there is a big chart with some red figures in, which is on page 10 of the report, that has a further comment saying, demand/capacity ratios exceeding 1.0, indicating inadequate strength for the demands.
Yes, that's correct. And if you look at the top of that table, it is for a load case with trucks, with a lane of heavy trucks parked across the bridge, which of course we've always known it's not suitable to take that load, that hence we have the weight restrictions.
And my final comment is on page 16, and it's the point you've already alluded to, but they start off by saying, as these are at load-bearing interfaces, the repair will not be straightforward. So when you have the bridge painting, which will include the repair, my interpretation of that statement is that the repair could be quite difficult and quite extended, and then to be painted, and that, as you say, the traffic across the bridge is going to have to be reduced. I'm concerned about that, particularly if it is an extended period, and if that bridge is going to have limited capacity for weeks rather than days, because that will really severely impact the business environment within our town. Can you comment on that? I mean, I really would like an honest appraisal of what kind of time you're talking about to get that work done.
Yes, certainly. So we're working now to, identify all the repairs and how they will be done. So it won't be, so the contract will have plenty of time to prepare for and plan and make sure that they can be done in the shortest possible time period. But we know from experience that when we scaffold and paint that bridge, it is a matter of weeks of work, not days of work. So we know that the traffic restrictions will go on for weeks, but it will be a matter of having a good plan and program to minimise that, but also looking at really investing a significant amount in the traffic diversions and alternatives to help the town during that period.
Yeah, and my final one is that the pictures in the Lumen report, which have really captured some of the corrosion and some of the challenges, they're scary, right?
Well, I guess it is a matter of perspective. Having been under this bridge numerous times myself and under many other bridges, they're not scary to me, and that they're quite typical. But yes, we've got lots of photographs, and we know all of the issues that have to be addressed, and hence the planning work going on now to make sure that there's a really good plan for that work.
Good wire brush will clean it up. Pretty good. Phil, you got another question, please?
Yep, thank you, Chairman, Mr. Chairman. Just a little bit more around that repairs, because obviously that's going to be huge and disruptive and things like that. I mean, in the report, it may have said when's the time frame of those pins, and if we can push it out a little bit, like to January 23. When people are on holidays, sort of starting mid-January, might have to go into February or something. It probably would have to go into February. So are we able to, put it around that sort of time frame? What's the urgency of it? Because obviously it's a big disruption. And would you consider putting on a bus service morning and evening, or Lions or Rotary may help with buses or something like that? You've talked a bit about other bits and pieces. I was going to ask you about it, but so something on that sort of line.
Yeah, certainly all of those things will be options, Councillor Coles. We'll be looking comprehensively at, when is the optimum time to do it, and what solutions there might be to manage traffic, and a temporary bus service in those peak times that could alleviate traffic congestion would be a good idea.
Yeah, because I think you said it was painted last time, 1998, was it? Did you say? So it's obviously 20 odd years later. So so their growth is huge, grown hugely since then. So yeah, thank you.
Liz, your turn.
Yeah, thanks, Graham. Hey, Brian, thank you for the update on the third bridge. I guess there's been a lot of interest in this bridge and its ability to perform its duty as such. And I guess I just am a little bit concerned that others may interpret this report differently. And you're right. It's all about those who have the right credentials, I suppose, to be able to interpret it correctly. And that's what I'm hearing from you, is that we have to do that right. So I'm presuming there'll be a media release that will go out following this meeting, talking about that.
Yes, certainly there is a media release planned. I guess with all of these reports that we've prepared for the bridge, because they are highly technical, they can be difficult to understand, and without that structural engineering knowledge, people can jump to conclusions. But this is very much a standard approach that's used, for bridges all over the country in terms of evaluating condition, load carrying capacity, and repair. So it's very much a tried and true approach from some very, very experienced bridge engineers. The same engineers who have been looking after this bridge are looking after the Auckland Harbour Bridge. So exactly the same staff who are solving problems there are helping solve our problems too. So I think we are in good hands, and we've had some very good advice. And I do have a lot of confidence that we will proceed through this next phase of repair and repainting, and we should get a very good outcome.
Thanks.
Yeah, Brian, just through the Regional Council Transport Committee, Matamata Piakau have got a bridge that's got a lot of Lycon very similar to this, and they've applied and just been successful at getting a resource consent to spray it. So you might like to consider using my suggestion of no sweat and a drone to spray it. It might be a whole lot cheaper and a whole lot less hassle.
Yes, and that's certainly something that we could do in the future. Obviously, we have sprayed it for lichen and growth in the past. It has been cleaned, but that shady side and the areas of the bridge that don't get washed with the rain do collect the dirt and do grow the lichen. So we know that's an issue.
And the pigeons roosting there are not doing any good either, damn it all.
Yeah. No, there will be certainly some pigeon control work happening before the repainting starts, and and more of the pigeon spikes fitted to the bridge to stop that roosting as best we can.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, well, we're dragging on a bit. We're way behind time. Are there any more serious questions? It is a good report, Brian, and thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a bit of me.
Not a question, Graham, but health and safety on a job like that must be massive, isn't it? I mean, look what's underneath here. It's huge.
Well, last time we did it, they were on harnesses strapped to the bridge, so that was part of the safety, and hard hats and all the other. It's quite good, and we managed traffic quite well. There was a bit of pressure at times, but we're going through those things. Hey, so there's a recommendation there to accept the report from Brian, please. I'm happy to move from the chair. Can I have a seconder, please?
Yep.
Thank you, Andrew. Sorry, Phil. Thank you, Andrew. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against carried. Thank you. Okay, the next tab is the Rangiō-Awhia Commemorations Temporary Road Request. Julie, are you there?
I am here, yes, yep.
Good lady, thank you.
That's pretty much the same as it has been in previous years.
Yes.
So, yep.
No dramas there?
Nope, we've had no complaints or objections or anything to that one.
Thank you. Recommendations A, B and C. A mover and a seconder, please. Marcus, thank you. Thank you, Jim. All those in favour say aye. Again?
Aye.
Thank you. The next one down is the Cycle Festival 2022 over this way. And I see that we did have an objection, but then they weren't using the road where the people objected from. Is that true, Julie?
It's been a little complicated. Yes, the objection came through for the Mangakawa Road closure.
Yeah.
And Amber had done an awful lot of work with the organisers and the objectors trying to work through that. And about halfway through, the organisers said, well, we're actually not closing that anyway.
Yeah. Nice.
So it's actually not being closed. It's going to be used with sort of rolling stoppages, the same as other areas. So that has actually been withdrawn from the application now, that the Mangakawa Road closure.
I must say I was a little bit concerned that they were opposed to the events in general. We do try to minimise the effects on people by making sure that we do the roads that don't have all that hoo-ha on them. So, but never mind.
Happy to move, Graham.
Oh, thank you, Mike. Seconder, please.
Second. Yep.
Who was that?
Yep, Philip.
Phil, thanks, Phil. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
It's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you very much. Bye.